We all think we know the story of Peter Pan, right? The boy who wouldn't grow up. But what if that was all a lie? Today, we're cracking open the Dossier of the Damned. It's a really chilling analysis that completely flips this childhood story on its head, recasting it as a cosmic horror tale, all based on the framework of the Nevermore texts. I mean, it's a story that just feels like a warm memory. You've got Peter Pan, the Lost Boys, the magical island of Neverland. We've always seen it as this beautiful symbol of childhood innocence, this great escape from all the burdens of getting older. But what if that whole interpretation is just wrong? What if the promise of staying young forever wasn't a gift, but the bait in some kind of cosmic trap? Because according to this analysis, Neverland isn't a paradise at all. It's a prison. And it was designed with a very, very specific purpose in mind. Yeah, this is not an adventure story. It's a dark, cautionary tale about what happens when that refusal to face reality turns into something predatory. And to really understand this spectral prison, we have to start at the very top of the food chain, with the mind that came up with the whole thing. So, at the absolute apex, you have Iblis. He's the mastermind, and you can just forget all the fire and brimstone stuff. This is a devil of cold, calculated philosophy. He's the grand accuser, the one who dreamed up this whole horrifying experiment. His titles really tell the whole story. Prince of Ice, Spirit of Absolute Coldness. See, this isn't about some passionate, fiery rage. His rebellion was, well, it was a cryogenic act of pure intellect. A rejection born from this cold, almost aristocratic contempt for how messy life is. He's known as the Nine Saga, which is German for naysayer. He is the ultimate spirit of refusal, that primordial voice that just says no to creation itself. But his opposition isn't just about causing chaos. It's actually rooted in a very deep philosophical argument about us, about the nature of humanity.
And here it is, the heart of it all. Iblis has basically made a wager with the creator. He argues that humanity, if you give us the choice, will always pick the sterile perfection of stasis, the beautiful death, over the difficult, painful, messy process of actually growing. And Nevermore? That's his courtroom, designed specifically to prove his case. But of course, a philosopher needs an engineer.
For that, we've got to go one level down the hierarchy, to Samyaza, the architect. This is the guy who provides the forbidden knowledge, the dark technology that makes Iblis's philosophical experiment an actual reality. His titles connect him to fallen angels, the ones who taught humanity all those forbidden arts, and also to that intellectual devil Mephistopheles from the Faust legend. What's interesting is he isn't really driven by malice. It's more of a cold scientific curiosity to see his grand alchemical experiment through to its absolutely horrifying end. As a Schwarzkünstler, or a black artist, his masterpiece is the spectral prison of Nevermore itself. He uses this forbidden celestial alchemy to build a world with zero consequences, an endless twilight where nothing can ever grow or change. It's the perfect petri dish to prove Iblis's cynical theory about us. Samyaza is the silent partner, He's the jailer who engineered the trap with this meticulous, amoral precision. But even the most perfectly built cage needs some bait to lure the victims inside. And that, right there, brings us to the final member of this unholy trinity, Peter. He's the active agent. He's the hunter who actually crosses the threshold from their world into ours to bring victims to the cage. I mean, just look at these names. The Eternal Page. That really emphasizes his role as a subordinate, someone who is forever unchanging. Earl King of the Nursery links him directly to the Germanic legend of a supernatural fiend who literally preys on children. This isn't a boy. It's an ancient, parasitic entity hiding in plain sight. At his very core, he is a Wechselbalg, a changeling. He embodies the pure horror of stagnation. See, to sustain his own predatory youth, he has to harvest the potential for growth, the very souls of others. He's a hollow creature who feeds on the one thing he can never, ever have, a future. And his methods? They're just a macabre inversion of the fairy tale. First, he offers a Faustian bargain, freedom from memory and pain, but it'll cost you your soul. Then there's flight. It's not powered by happy thoughts, but by a grotesque salve. And finally, his flute doesn't play happy tunes. It plays the frequencies of unreason, which literally severs a child's connection to the living world. So what happens to the poor kids who actually take his offer? What kind of fate is waiting for them in this spectral realm? Well, let's look at the two distinct and, frankly, equally horrifying destinies of the damned. On one side, you have Captain Hook. Here, he's reimagined as a damned scholar, kind of like Dr. Faustus. His punishment is that he has to remember everything he's lost, to be tormented by the ghost of his own potential. His suffering is meaningful because he knows what's happening. But on the other side, you have the Lost Boys, who suffer a far, far worse fate, a meaningless existence in an eternal, empty present. They're reduced to what are called homunculi, basically artificial shells. Their memories, their histories, their very selves are just erased. They become these frozen monuments to stagnation. They are the living, breathing, and ultimately soulless proof that Iblis was right all along, that humanity will choose the void over the struggle of life. So when you look at this entire horrifying structure, from the philosopher at the top all the way down to the hollowed-out victims at the bottom, essential warning starts to emerge from this dark retelling. It's a warning about the temptations that really all of us face. Ultimately, this unholy trinity, they embody the three classic pillars of the Faustian warning. You've got Iblis, who is pride, that cold refusal to accept imperfection. Semyaza is forbidden knowledge, technology used completely without morality. And Peter, well, he represents that final terrible bargain, the loss of the soul for the simple promise of an easy life. And that brings us to the final and most chilling takeaway from the Nevermore texts. This narrative is basically arguing that the desire to escape the struggle of life, to avoid pain, memory, and growth, is really a surrender to nothingness. The ultimate damnation isn't some hell that's forced on you. It's a cage you willingly fly into, trading your soul for the promise of never having to grow up. The question this story leaves us with is this: in a world that offers endless escapes from reality, how do we make sure we're not making that exact same bargain?